The thing is about these untrammeled woods, you've got to find your own way, and so therefore you travel a unique way through the woods, and you've got to make a decision all the time which way looks more accessible. And so I don't know, but let's have a look, shall we? Let's just see what you would do. That there looks to be the simplest. So these trees are falling down all the time, and there's an enormous amount of them falling down all the time. And so to, you know, say to the public that we don't think you're bright enough to make your own decisions, and if you walk in this wood and something happens to you, then you'll only try and sue us in any case for allowing you to do it, and so we just got to stop you from doing it. That way we'll stop all the lawsuits, you know, for the idiots that do get hurt. So lots of the rules, regulations and all that sort of thing, they're in place because the vast majority of people can't think for themselves. And not only that, if they hurt themselves or they get into trouble, then they're going to be looking for recompense to somebody for money for their stupidness, to compensate them for their stupidness. You know, this was the beauty of growing up 100 years ago or so, when there would be no funds for people that walked in the woods and, you know, got a broken leg from a falling tree. It'd just be like, well, that's what happens in woods. You know, was it windy? Oh, you shouldn't have gone out on a windy day. Didn't anybody ever tell you? Didn't mama or daddy ever tell you? You know, best not go in the woods on a real windy day. Anyway, you've learnt now, haven't you? Tell your kids. But, you know, there's just a lot of stupid stuff going on. And that's why. And you know, more and more, it only ever needs one person to break a rule or one person to sue, and then it affects, you know, the rest of the populace in the country. If a government gets sued for, like, a falling tree, and then if there's ever any remote chance of a tree falling, then they're going to cut it down and butcher it up and put signs all around it saying do not enter, forbidden, and all this sort of stuff, because the idiots have created their own prison. And that's what we're dealing with now, people. We're dealing with a legacy of fools. The legacy of people that didn't want to take responsibility for their own actions and the acts of God. And so now everywhere's out of bounds and it's for our own safety, and we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, for our own safety. What have we got here? A few little bits. And another thing that I'd like you guys to help me out with, what's the average viewing that you partake in with one of my videos? Because when I look in the analytics, it's kind of like the average is about 28% that watch the video. The average watched is 28%, yeah. So very few actually make it to the end. And I'm like, well, you guys, you know what my videos are about. When you click on one, you know my videos are like a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get. You never know when I'm just going to be dropping a philosophical bomb on you, or turning a corner and speaking about something completely different. So if you turn on a video, oh, that's not interesting, you know, after about 30 seconds or less, and then you turn it off, well, it's like just opening the book on any page and thinking, oh, this is shit, because you've got no idea what the story's about. And so how many of you just browse through, and like with my Providence videos, how many of you just want to go, ooh, you know, that bit, you're seeking for that bit, you're fast forwarding, you do it about 5 times, you think, ah, fuck it, there's nothing there. My videos aren't about that. My videos are about having the time, like Providence, just to watch him, and me interacting. A human being and an animal. Just watch how we feed on each other, how we give to each other, how we grow with each other. That's what's in my videos. And a few of you get it, but the vast majority of you don't. Walking in these woods. Walking in the woods, boring. You know, what are you watching the artist videos for? Why? And I've always said this, and you will never ever get the gist of any of my videos from the title, because I don't do that. I purposely obfuscate the content of my videos, because I work on a policy that the only people worthy of what I'm imparting are those that sit through, that know that there's going to be some gems in there somewhere. Maybe not in every video, but even if they have to watch 5 videos to get one little snippet, one little gem, that's what Fossicking for Gold's all about, people. You labour all day long in the river with your pan, just sifting for the tiniest speck of gold. But eventually, these specks of gold add up, and then you become rich. You see, that little bit there, what I've just said, that's wisdom. You won't ever get anybody speaking about that. You just won't get it. How I use similes and illustrations and analogy to put my point over, always in an articulate, interesting way, whilst doing something else. And so I think mostly, if I was to write an evaluation of my excursion here in planet Earth, I would say, well, it's a beautiful planet, but the human beings, they're very sad, they're very lost, they're very dull, entirely cut off from spirit. They're just automaton. They're just drones looking for something, only they've got no idea what they're looking for. They're looking for something because they're so desperate for satiation, but they don't know where that satiation would come from. And I've been telling you for years, the satiation comes from a still mind and a still heart. Then the whole universe, cosmos, opens up to you, and you want for nothing. We are God. We are the purpose that everybody's been looking for. The purpose is now. It's what you are experiencing or potentially experiencing. Every second of your lives there is a potential there. A potential to extract a great piece of wisdom. A pearl of wisdom. A moment of joy. A lesson well learned. A speck of information that could be very useful. You acquire that from being observant. And so now you see, what I've been doing when I've been speaking to you, I've also been looking around. And there's two things that I saw. One is these little bauble fungi. Very hard, they're charcoal-like. Look at that. And in the early stages, they're brown. Huh? And then the other thing that I noticed when I was standing here is that little fleck of orange down there. There we are. Just that little anomaly in amongst all of this seemingly boring stuff. Now, they're very glossy and slimy. And underneath they're white. I'm not going to disturb them any more than that. Very slimy and glossy. Huh. And so that for me was one of the highlights, because as I was just conveying to you how to do it, I was doing it myself, wasn't I? And as I'm conveying a message, I'm looking around. I'm scouting around the whole thing. It doesn't detract from the message I want to give you, because I can do more than one thing at once. I'm concentrating very heavily on my whole environment, recognising all different varieties of trees from their leaves and barks and everything. I'm looking for anomalies. I'm looking at all the colourings and everything like that. And I impart that to you. And if you can just take that on board and you really utilise that, then it will be one of the greatest things you've ever learnt. Because if you apply this to the rest of your life, your whole world will change. If you can actually do more than one thing at once, if you can gather data. You see, what I do lots of times, I'm reading a book, but I'm also thinking about something else. And I contemplate on what actually is happening there. And I think I'm reading the book with my left brain, but I'm thinking about something else imaginatively, or artistically, or lovingly, cosmically, spiritually, with the right side of the brain. The two brains work independent of one another, people. And if you are sufficiently endowed to be able to gather information from both sides of your brain at the same time without one overriding the other. They're both entirely different resources. And so there's another bomb I've just dropped. You know, some people have read my book, and one person in particular said they read the book and there's nothing new in there. Nothing new. So he's inferring that he knew everything of what I said. All my 60 years on this planet, the wisdom's gone into that book, and he couldn't find anything new. And I said, the reason why you couldn't find anything new, because it was so new, you didn't even recognise it. Go back and read that book again. Only read one chapter, maximum in one day. Contemplate on it. Think about the content, what he said. Stop at each line and verse and ask yourself, do I know what that means? How deep is that? This subject matter that he's speaking about. Have I got any idea about what he's speaking about? Or do I just think I know because I've heard somebody else speak about it? Knowing he's doing it. Knowing he's having experienced it. And if you haven't experienced those things and you want to get closer to God, it's about time that you did start experiencing more. You see? Now, I did actually find some more Jew's ear, so I've got a reasonable amount, enough to make a little bit of stir fry with, but I'm still looking for a little bit more. And if I set my intention, the chances are I'm going to find some. So very swampy all over there. Looks like up here is the better path. So, for those of you, you know, with memories like goldfish, let me just reiterate here. How many of you watched the whole video? Why do you not watch the whole video when you never know what you're going to get? Is it because you just don't have that focus? I know it's the thing these days. People that just don't have the focus. They've just got to be distracted and doing something else and this and that and flicking. I know you can't just sit down with a cup of tea, cup of coffee, beer, glass of wine and just enjoy something. Think about it, feel it. How many of you do that? How many of you just flick on an endless stream of hunting satisfaction? Because I'm telling you now, unless you can start to sit through a whole video endlessly, you will never find that satisfaction. Because the satisfaction derives out of doing that. You see? So you get caught in a paradox, don't you? Anyway, I'm almost done with battery, so I'll just keep it filming because I'm almost done. I do have a spare one because I'm a thorough, efficient sort of person that just brings spare shit with me. And I know that if I would turn off the camera, then there'll be something of interest to look at. Yeah. One thing I do miss and it's kind of like I don't really miss them because I've never really had them. But when I watch videos of people in America, fossicking, they've got these massive redwood forests, and their countryside is big country. You know, for us to have the little wood here and there, this little wood's like a third of a mile long and a couple 100 meters wide. That's it. You know, if I was to go to a decent sized wood, I'd have to go to Nottingham Forest, Sherwood Forest realm, Robin Hood realm. I'd have to travel, you know, 25 miles, 30 miles to be able to even remotely lose myself in a wood or a forest. And so when I see these videos of America, you drive for like a couple of hours to get there, and then you got to take your guns and your knives and shit because there's bears and cougars and all different sorts of stuff out there. It's a proper wilderness. We don't have that here, and there isn't a single creature that's going to ruin my day any more significant than a bee. We don't have anything poisonous. There's no predatory animals for human beings, because it's such a small island with a high population. The human being has took precedent, you know, and ensured that there's nowhere that we can go where we're going to be compromised by wolves or bears or anything like that. And we're fortunate enough to live in a hemisphere which doesn't have poison spiders, scorpions, millipedes and all that nasty stuff that you can just come upon whenever you're walking through the woods or lifting up a log or something like that. And snakes, of course. Snakes will be a problem anywhere. Not here. We've got 2 snakes. They're both innocuous. Anyway, I'm going to call it a day, guys. Catch you later.